Welcome to Spectral Shadows. This is the place where the stories don't just haunt your mind, they follow you into the dark. Before the whispers begin, tell me, where are you watching from and what time is it? Midnight? Or closer to the hour when shadows move on their own? If you're brave enough to continue, prove it. Like this video, subscribe to Spectral Shadows and leave a comment with your time and location, so we'll know exactly where to find you. Now, let's open the door to tonight's nightmare. Story number 1. I shouldn't have been awake when I found it. It was 2:14 a.m., and I'd just spent an hour scrolling mindlessly, promising myself, again, that I'd finally fix my sleep schedule. That's when I saw the ad. Boost your focus, track your life, never lose a single minute. The app was called Chronicle, and something about its slogan hooked me. I'd tried a million so-called productivity hacks before. Time blocking, bullet journaling, those planners with cute stickers. None of them ever worked. But this app promised something different. It claimed it could track my schedule automatically, even when I wasn't logging anything. It said it knew what I was doing, even if I didn't tell it. It sounded too good to be true. But at 2 a.m., half delirious, I downloaded it anyway. It opened to a sleek black screen with a single glowing question. Do you agree to let Chronicle monitor your activities? I tapped yes. At first, it was amazing. When I woke up the next morning, Chronicle had already built a timeline. 7:48, 8:16 a.m., showering, 8:16, 8:34 a.m., making coffee, 8:34, 9:42 a.m., scrolling TikTok. It was eerily precise. I hadn't entered anything, yet somehow, it knew exactly when I stepped into the shower, how long I stayed in the kitchen, even the black hole of wasted TikTok time. The strangest part? I felt comforted, as if I wasn't drifting anymore, as if my life was being watched, recorded. Even the meaningless in-between moments suddenly felt like they had weight. I started using it obsessively over the next few days. Chronicle filled my life with crisp little entries, and for the first time in years, I felt like maybe I wasn't wasting everything. Then came the first anomaly. Thursday night, I woke up groggy, throat dry, and reached for my phone. Chronicle had already logged the night, 11:42 p.m., 1:11 a.m., sleeping, 1:11, 2:07 a.m., standing outside neighbor's window, 2:07, 6:44 a.m., sleeping. I blinked at the screen, standing outside my neighbor's window. My neighbor, Claire, is an older woman. We barely speak. Why the hell would I be standing outside her window at 1 in the morning? I laughed nervously and assumed it was a glitch. Maybe Chronicle had misread something, like me getting up for water. I almost deleted the app right then, but some dark, gnawing curiosity kept my finger from pressing uninstall. Instead, I decided to test it. The next night, I stayed awake on purpose. I sat at my desk with a Red Bull, Netflix playing softly in the background, making sure not to move. Around 2 a.m., I finally checked Chronicle. 12:07, 1:59 a.m., watching Netflix at desk. 1:59, 2:41 a.m., standing outside neighbor's window. My stomach turned. I hadn't moved. I hadn't even gone near my front door, but Chronicle insisted I'd spent 42 minutes outside Claire's window. I locked the door, closed all the blinds, tried to convince myself I was just being paranoid. Monday morning, Claire was waiting for me in the hallway. You were out late last night, weren't you? She asked, frowning. No, I said, my heart pounding, because I could have sworn. She trailed off, shaking her head. Never mind, sorry. She shuffled back into her apartment, but the way she looked at me made my skin crawl. I opened Chronicle again. The entry was still there. Black text on a white background, carved into reality. 1:59, 2:41 a.m., standing outside neighbor's window. After that, the logs only got stranger. Saturday, 3:12, 3:47 a.m., digging behind communal trash bins. Sunday, 2:23, 3:02 a.m., watching someone sleep. It didn't even say who, just someone. Every time, the memory was gone. I'd been asleep or awake in my apartment the whole time. But Chronicle logged those missing hours with unnerving precision. I tried recording myself at night with my phone's camera. The footage showed me sound asleep in bed the entire time. No movement, no interruptions. And yet, when I checked Chronicle, 1:44, 2:19 a.m., standing on the edge of the highway overpass. I stopped sleeping. I stayed awake until my vision blurred, terrified that if I closed my eyes, I'd wake up to another entry. Another life I didn't remember living. My skin went pale. My eyes bloodshot. Coffee didn't help. Neither did alcohol, but Chronicle never stopped. It filled my nights with horrors I couldn't explain. 2:01, 2:53 a.m., kneeling in the park, whispering. 3:17, 4:02 a.m., scratching the locked basement door. 1:36, 2:11 a.m. Standing motionless at the intersection, watching cars pass. I showed the app to my friends, desperate for reassurance. Most of them thought I'd been duped, that Chronicle was some elaborate ARG or viral marketing stunt. But when they tried to download it, it was gone from the App Store. One night, I made a mistake. I decided to confront it. If the app said I was outside Claire's window again, I'd go there myself, prove it was fake. So when Chronicle logged the entry, 1:58, 2:41 a.m., standing at neighbor's window, I grabbed my coat and ran downstairs. The night air was cold, the apartment complex silent. I crept toward Claire's window, heart hammering. Her curtains were drawn tight, but inside I could see the faint glow of her TV. And then, as I stood there, my phone buzzed. A new entry appeared, 2:12, 2:13 a.m. Watching yourself. I froze. Slowly I turned my head. Across the parking lot, in the shadow of the dumpsters, a figure stood, tall, motionless. My shape. It didn't move, just stood there, holding a glowing rectangle in its hand. My phone buzzed again, 2:13, 2:14 a.m., smiling. The figure's face split into a smile I could feel in my bones, too wide, too knowing. I ran back inside, locked the door, and didn't come out until sunrise. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, I've tried everything. Deleting Chronicle, factory resetting my phone, buying a new one. Nothing works. The app always comes back. No icon, no sign of installation. Just there, waiting, the next time I unlock my screen. And the entries keep getting worse. 3:01, 3:44 a.m., practicing with the knife. 4:11, 4:59 a.m., standing at the bedroom door, watching yourself sleep. 2:22, 2:58 a.m., digging again, almost ready. Almost ready for what? I don't know how much longer I can take this. I've stopped eating. I don't leave the apartment. My friends stopped checking on me after I scared them with my rambling. But tonight was different. Chronicle logged something I can't ignore. 1:44, 2:13 a.m., writing confession. 2:13, present, posting on Reddit. And as I type these words, my phone buzzes again. One last entry slides into place with the inevitability of a headstone. 2:14, end becoming permanent. Story number 2. I'm typing this in the dark. My hands won't stop shaking. I know this is going to sound insane, but I swear I'm not paranoid. Please just listen. I wasn't going to post again. Not because I didn't want to, but because I hoped the first session was just a weird coincidence. After my younger brother Eli died in a car accident, my parents forced me into grief counseling. I expected stale coffee and awkward silences. Instead, strangers described things about Eli that no one else could have known. A green hoodie with a torn elbow pulled from the wreckage, orange popsicles he called sun sticks, and All Apologies by Nirvana, the song he used to play on repeat. They spoke as if they were talking about their own dead brothers. I panicked and deleted my post a few hours later, convinced that it was my brain trying to find patterns in my grief when there were none. Just before I took it down, though, I added something, a memory Eli never had. I made it up to prove I wasn't losing my mind, to prove there was still one memory of my brother that belonged only to me. I've been back to the group several times since then. Most of those sessions were uneventful, at least nothing I could pin down as sinister. But I went back tonight, and I didn't think it was about grief anymore. I got there early, hoping to get ahead of the grief spiraling in my brain. Jean's gray-streaked bob stayed perfectly still as she watched me enter from her seat in the middle of the room, her notebook resting in her lap. "Good to see you again, Lucas." I didn't smile back, just gave a quick nod and avoided her sharp, green eyes. I sat in the same uncomfortable plastic chair as last time, as I watched Mark, Greg, Lillian, Jonah, and another person I hadn't seen before shuffle in and take their seats. I tried to remember what was said about Eli's popsicle obsession, but it kept slipping away. Had I mentioned the hoodie? I didn't think so. I'd done my best to tell myself that I was just suffering from a hyperactive imagination because, after all, there was comfort in the panic, right? My eyes landed on the rabbit-shaped coffee stain on the floor. Darker now, like something was pushing up from beneath the tile. I blinked, but it stayed. A jagged crack ran through its liquid features like a scar. I rubbed my eyes. The line had vanished, but the rabbit was back. Some things leave their mark, don't they? I heard Zhong's voice, but I never saw her lips move. It was as if her voice was inside my head. That was when my ears picked up on something in the distance. A soft, off-key humming. The opening chords of All Apologies drifted through the room slowly, almost methodically. It was quiet enough for me to think that maybe I was imagining it, but it was there, and the humming was growing louder behind me. I turned my head slowly, my heartbeat rivaling the sound of the music. I noticed that Jonah was sitting in his chair, rocking slightly from side to side. His chapped lips were barely parted, and his eyes were half shut behind his square-framed glasses, like he was halfway between sleep and trance. But it was unmistakable. The melody was coming from him. I leaned forward in my chair slightly. "Hey, you okay?" His eyes opened sharply as if he had just woken up to a morning alarm. He gave a light chuckle before smiling faintly. "Why so jumpy, Rabbit?" I felt my blood turn to ice. I hadn't told anybody that nickname, not one time. How did he know? "What did you just call me?" His brow furrowed. "I didn't say anything, man. You all right?" I shook my head and dropped the conversation with Jonah. I knew what I had heard. Everyone else sat still, left hands curled around their paper cups, elbows bent in eerie symmetry. It felt rehearsed, like a ritual they'd practiced. I didn't feel scared exactly, just disconnected. My body was in the room, but my mind was elsewhere entirely. I hadn't even said that nickname aloud since Eli died. That was his name for me. Something only he ever called me, because I would jump at the sound of anything. But now, others knew it. How? "I am losing my mind," I thought to myself as I twiddled my fingers, waiting for the session to begin. Jean's smile tightened like something crawled behind her teeth. "No, you're not, dear." Had I spoken aloud and didn't realize? I blinked in confusion and was met a look from Jean that suggested that I had been staring for too long. "Thanks," I responded briefly as I did my best to calm my rattled self. Eventually, Jean asked us to once again share a memory, and this time, Lillian volunteered to go first. Her fingers danced over the leather bracelet on her left wrist, in tight, practiced loops. He dotted his eyes with tiny bubble circles. My stomach lurched. Eli used to do that. His school assignments always appeared vandalized by balloons. John nodded slowly. "That's a beautiful memory, Lillian. Thank you for sharing. That's yours now." Why did she say it like that? Like she was giving it away. There was no time to dwell on that as Greg went next. His knuckles were red from being rubbed raw, a habit he didn't seem aware of. He avoided spaghetti at all costs because he thought the sauce smelled like pennies. When it was my turn, I opened my mouth, but nothing came out, not even a whisper. I frantically searched my brain for something, anything, about Eli that hadn't already been said. The harder I tried to remember, the faster it all evaporated, like breath on glass. I could remember his face, but when I reached for the little things like his laugh or his habits, they slipped through my fingers. "Come back to me." I grunted, dismissing my turn so I could ponder everything further. I received a stern look from Jean as she reluctantly made the new person introduce himself. He was pale, lanky, and nervous, with sandy hair sticking up at the crown of his head. "I'm Shane." He spoke softly. "My brother, Ben. He was hit by a drunk driver a few years ago." The silence sat for so long, I wasn't sure he was going to speak again, until he finally did. "We used to build these massive Lego castles together. He'd always insist on putting the flag on the top because he said it wasn't a real fortress without the flag. You don't know him. Stop pretending you do." The words ripped out of me before I realized I'd sat up straighter in my chair. My throat burned with shame, but nobody looked surprised. Lucas, no speaking out of turn. John tilted her head. "You don't want to lose him again, do you, Rabbit?" "What did you just say?" My tone now turning combative. I was telling Mark to go ahead. "That's definitely not what you said." I grumbled with clenched fists, earning glares from the others. Mark leaned forward in his seat, his eyes a little watery as he recounted his memory. He had this real wide gap between his front teeth. I thought he looked like a rabbit because of it. My eyes widened as my head snapped towards the coffee stain on the floor, the one that resembled a rabbit, except it wasn't a rabbit anymore. It was a devilish grin with two wide, stained teeth, shimmering like dampened ink across the tile. I watched as the smile stretched and widened, its proportions growing with every second before it disappeared in the blink of an eye. I shivered in my chair as I clutched myself tightly, the room seemingly dropping in temperature as I listened to Jonah speak. That dinosaur shirt. You remember the one? Yellow raggedy thing with the little hole under the armpit? He wouldn't take it off. He wore it everywhere he could. "Stop it," I spoke, through gritted teeth. They didn't listen. One by one, they spoke Eli into the room, in fragments of hobbies, phrases, and inside jokes. Each detail carved into me like glass under the skin. Then Lillian said something that made me shudder. He used to say clouds were made of cotton candy and dead dreams every time we drove past the old park. The words fell from her mouth like they'd always belonged to her. But that was mine. That was the one thing Eli never said. I felt sick. The world began to spin and tilt around me. I reached into my backpack for my water, and my fingers brushed fabric. Confused, I pulled it from my backpack. It was Eli's hoodie. It was torn at the elbow. The fabric was damp, faintly smelling of gasoline and scorched plastic. Someone had folded it neatly into my backpack. The dampness seeped into my palm as if it had been waiting for me in the wreck this whole time. Inside the collar, "To Rabbit, you'll always be my player, too." I remember Eli writing this on the inside of a birthday card he had given me once. This was after we had spent hours, days, and weeks grinding different video games together. That was our memory. No one else knew that, right? I glanced at Jean, half expecting her to react. Instead, she was watching me, like she'd been waiting to see my face crumple at the sight of that ratty hoodie. She didn't even blink as I stood up in anger. "These aren't your memories," I declared, louder than I meant to. "You're not talking about your brothers. You're talking about mine." The room stood still. The only sound I could hear was my heartbeat, thudding in my chest. But then, Jean's expression shifted to reveal a smile that was wrong in every possible way. "Lucas, I know this is hard for you, but don't interrupt the process." Mark looked up at me with a slow, deliberate frown. "Why are you so scared, Rabbit? You've always been here." Lillian chimed in, her eyes looking like they were going to protrude from their sockets. The color drained from my face as words failed me. They smiled in unison, not real smiles, but ones carved into their faces like wax figures left too long in the sun. I took a step back, and that's when the lights began to flicker. Once, twice, until complete darkness. I could only see their silhouettes faintly sitting in their chairs like chess pieces that had never moved. I went to leave when I heard the humming begin. It started out low, but slowly crept to a crescendo as the sound of static crackled to life somewhere behind me. The first, dissonant chords of "All Apologies" leaked out like rot through the community center. It was so distorted and warbled that it sounded like something dying was dragging itself across the room. The voices started again, except they weren't speaking anymore. They were mimicking and echoing Eli's laugh, his voice, his humming. One by one, I listened to his words, leaving their mouths in the pitch black, like they were chewing them up, and spitting them back at me. I sat there trying to picture Eli's face again, but for a moment, all I could see was the hoodie. What kind of brother forgets that? Greg's head twitched in violent spasms, his neck bending at a sharp, almost impossible angle as he whispered, "Sun sticks. You remember sun sticks?" Jonah's smile stretched almost past his nose, his eyes two flat pits of shadow. He said clouds were made of candy and dead dreams. I tripped backward over my chair, landing hard with a thud. The coffee stain shimmered like pond water, rippling under the flickering emergency light. It was grinning, and I watched in horror as its teeth grew huge, and the stain seemingly took a life of its own. The melody of the song looped repeatedly, bent and broken until it sounded like screeches of agony in reverse. "Player 2, Lillian whispered, her voice trembling with excitement. "We saved the castle together, remember?" I heard joints cracking like tree branches in quick succession as something started crawling across the floor slowly. Bones scraped across the tile as a labored wheeze thick with phlegm came closer to where I stood. I turned to run, but it grabbed my ankle, its grip firm but slippery like a hand covered in oil. "I've fed on softer hearts than yours." Jean's voice echoed in my thoughts as I kicked hard and stumbled to my feet. I ran as fast as my feet could carry me until I slammed into the door frame. I fumbled with the lock in a frantic struggle. Then, lights exploded back on, and the music stopped. The room had returned to normal. Everyone was still in place like chess pieces that never moved. Jean sipped her coffee, as she stared at the terrified expression on my face. I didn't say goodbye. With my heart still racing, I grabbed my backpack and ran the whole way home without looking back once. My mom asked about the session, but I didn't dare tell her what I saw, not even a fraction of it. I couldn't even really put into words what I experienced. All I told her was that it was fine, and that I walked home because I needed the fresh air from how heavy it got today. I went upstairs to my room and closed the door, hopelessly gaslighting myself into thinking that a thin piece of wood could keep the horrors out. All I could think about were those dying lights, the way their faces shifted, and a name I hadn't heard in months being spoken again. I dumped my backpack onto the bed, but the hoodie was gone. I swore I had it. Hadn't I taken it out? Then I saw it, folded neatly at the foot of my bed. I knew I hadn't brought it home. I would have remembered I curled up on the bed, wiping at tears I didn't remember shedding. The grief was still there, but I felt hollow, like my body was going through the motions without me. All I kept repeating in my head was, he called me Rabbit. I don't know how long I sat there in uninterrupted silence, but the sound of my phone lowly buzzing in my pocket snapped me out of my thoughts. I didn't recognize the number and just let it go to voicemail. If it is important, they will leave one. But the number kept calling me, no matter how many times I silenced or blocked it. In a moment that I would come to regret, I answered the phone on the 7th try. First came the static, gnawing through the speaker angrily. Then the warped twang of all apologies, every note nauseatingly dragged out as if it were being played from a melted cassette tape. It sounded more like a funeral than a song. I pressed the phone harder to my ear before I realized my hands were slick with sweat. Underneath the layers of distortion, words manifested themselves. "You shouldn't have deleted me, Rabbit," said a voice that almost sounded like Eli. I whispered his name before the line clicked dead. "No, no, 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 no," I repeated as I felt the phone drop from my hand to the bedroom floor. I knelt to pick up the phone, but my hand brushed something else. There, on the floor beside my bed, was a popsicle stick. Sunstick, written in messy orange marker. It was unmistakably Eli's handwriting. I didn't know if I was shaking from fear, or from the kind of cold that creeps inside when nothing makes sense anymore. I crawled under my bed and pulled out an old box I had tucked away. I hadn't touched it since the funeral. Inside were pictures of crayon monsters with jagged teeth and drawing of our Lego fortress. After a couple moments of quick searching through the contents of bittersweet nostalgia, I found the picture I was looking for. It was Eli. He was around 8 years old, and he was grinning wide, with both front teeth missing, holding up a Lego castle with a tiny red flag. I could hear his voice clear as day in my head. "It's not real without the flag." I felt myself choking back tears as I remembered begging him to play video games with me that day. If only he had stayed home, he would still be my player too. My chest stiffened with the memory of his laugh, that pure, careless joy. Maybe I'm the reason he's gone, and that's why I keep hearing him. I ran my thumb over the photo, over Eli's gap-toothed grin. Tears fell from my eyes. I shut the box. The memories felt radioactive. A dark thought crossed my mind. What if none of them are lying? What if they're not sharing stories? What if they're taking turns carving him out of me piece by piece? The sun sticks, the castle, the damn fake memory. It was the only explanation I had to rationalize the things I was seeing. But if they can steal something that was never real, what exactly does that make them? And worse, what does that make me? It's late at night. I haven't slept, and I don't think I honestly want to. I heard my mom answer the phone downstairs earlier. Jean called to make sure I had made it home safely. Something else was said, but Mom wouldn't tell me what. "It'll all come back to you," is what she told me. All I could picture was John's smile, the one that always knew more than it said. I'm not just losing Eli, I'm losing myself. If anyone out there has ever heard of a grief group like this or anything even remotely similar, I must know. I'm not sure if I should go back, but I feel like the only way I'll get answers is to keep going. I'm scared I'll forget his voice next. If I forget him completely, did I ever really have a brother at all? God, that sounds messed up, but I don't know how else to say it. I'll update whenever I go back again. I promise to stay safe and keep in touch with you all as much as I can. Story number 3. Have you ever heard of the No-No Man? If you have, it's already too late for you. There's no easy way to put this, but I am a 36-year-old morbidly obese white man. Have you seen Darren Aronofsky's The Whale? Well, I'm twice that man's weight in prosthetics. The only difference is that while Brendan Fraser gets to shed his prosthetic prison off after rap, my oceanic rolls are as vast as they are inescapable. As you can imagine, it was a bit of a problem. I never wanted to be so fat. I was always a real butterball growing up. My mom even used to call me the Great English Ham. Being a tubster is cute when you're a kid, but it got out of control fast. The phenomenon of lifelong eating disorders stemming from parental abuse is well documented, and unfortunately I was no outlier. You see, my father would kick the ever-loving shit out of me and my mom daily. And while my mom found her peace in ketamine, I found mine in the cookie jar. Fast forward to 3 months ago. I'm doing my thing. I sell subprime mortgages to illegal immigrants who make Lambo money off construction gigs. It's not a job Christ would do, but it pays the bills better than washing hooker feet or whatever. It started off like any other day at the office. I reached down between my legs to fish out a good humor strawberry shortcake bar from the mini fridge wedged under my desk, only to be met with violent resistance. Whap! A sharp and assertive slap intercepted my searching hand from its creamy treasure. I let out a frustrated, "What the fuck?" catching wayward glances from Steven, our resident Microsoft Excel specialist. But when I looked up to see who had so rudely got in the way of me and my good humor strawberry shortcake bar, I found myself face to face with something totally inhuman. Not to say he wasn't human-like. His rib bones jutted from under his latex-tight, jaundiced skin, the stomach vacuum sealed inward, revealing the corrugated outline of a large intestine, and the shoulders were hunched, so he looked like a very tall S. He was so naked, I screamed. I looked up at his face, having half a mind to give him a piece of my mind, when I saw his awful, inhuman face. It was human-like, because it had eyes, a nose, and a mouth, but they were all totally inhuman. The eyes were blackened by the shadow of his big furrowing brow, his massive cheeks forcing his eyes into beautiful half-moons. The nose was so long that I hesitated to look straight at it for fear of my eyes getting stuck cross-eyes. And the mouth, oh, that horrible puffy mouth, puckered into a great big frown that stretched past his chin and jutted from the face about, oh, let's say 3 inches. Then, in a booming voice louder than anything I'd ever heard in my whole fucking life, he said, "No, no, no, no." An emaciated finger wagged pendulously from his stone knuckles. I couldn't believe it. No, I refused to believe this was happening to me. I quickly rubbed my little eyes as if to say, please let this all be a bad dream. But it wasn't. This was dead real. I looked over at Stephen with eyes full of desperation and hopeless confusion. "Are you seeing this, man?" I whimpered. "What?" he replied normally. "You don't see this?" I said, his dumbness almost driving me to madness. I reached down again for my pink, juicy, good humor strawberry shortcake bar, and the man slapped me even harder than he had before. Ah, fuck. That fucking sucks. I screamed as my knuckles began to bleed. A deafening, no, 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 shaking the very foundation my reality is built upon. What? Stupid Stephen murmured hesitantly. Try it. Grab the good humor strawberry shortcake bar. You'll see. I barked like a rabid dog. For real? You never let me touch your snacks. You always bark at me when I ask you for one of your good humor strawberry shortcake bars. Stupid Stephen shat out of his bitch mouth. Do it! I howled. My bottom lip jutted out, and I bounced up and down on my tiny office swivel chair, flapping my arms like a temperamental bird. Now, 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 quickly! So, our Stephen came over to my desk with a quizzical look. He opened the fridge and grabbed a good humor strawberry shortcake bar. Now give it to me, Stephen. Give it to me and I'll give you a raise and maybe Microsoft Word as well. I quibbled. Oh, cool, sure, he said. But before Stephen could hand me the sweet treat, my heart oh so desired, the big S-shaped man took his evil hands and tore Stephen limb from limb. His shoulder came out with a stomach-spinning pop. He cracked Stephen's leg bones, and the man slurped up the gore like a well-seasoned Baltimorean working his way around some crab legs. The man tore through Stephen's flesh as easily as my child hands used to tear through microwaved frosting. He would scoop heaping piles of flesh and viscera into his elongated throat, stuffing it far beyond its flesh storage capacity, and then turn to me, chewing wide and slow, making sure I could see every gruesome detail of what was once a perfectly productive co-worker slide pathetically down his neck chute. Stephen screamed and screamed, but I covered my ears because the screaming sound hurt. When I uncovered them, what was left of Stephen was soaked into the brand new carpet I had installed not even 2 weeks ago. I fell to my knees and cried. That's when I learned that when the no-no man says, no, you listen. It's been 3 months now. I lay fetal, my emaciated body forming a bumpy O on the novelty faux tiger skin rug sprawled out on the floor of my cigar lounge. My tongue hangs out, licking at the floor, every lick eliciting a swift slap on the taste buds, like a S-shaped cat pawing at a tiny helpless bug. No, 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 he coos. He won't let me eat, not even a lick of dust. And while I look better than I ever have, sort of like Christian Bale in The Machinist, I'm dying really hard. My hunger is consuming me the way I wish I could consume some food right now. I'm using the last of my strength to type this out. I needed to warn the other morbidly obese white men of this world of a fate worse than death. Well, I am dying, but I'm sure my death is hurting more than most other people's deaths. So long and farewell. And remember, if the no-no man comes, well, let's just hope he doesn't. Story number 4. Have you ever heard someone's voice you recognize call into a podcast? Once, while sitting in traffic, listening to one of my favorite comedians' podcasts, my high school crush called in. Her voice, raspy and sweet, brought me back to high school. Jade is unforgettable because she didn't forget me on the first day of high school. Coming in halfway through the year, my new school assigned me a buddy. My buddy wasn't interested in sitting with me at lunch. Guess who was? Jade. Maybe the star-shaped brown birthmark plastered on her face made her understand what it was like to be an outcast. That beauty mark on her face could never stop me from having a 4-year-long secret crush on her. Chasing her affection was a constant subplot in my high school story. Sprinting between classes to find her, and dancing over the line between friendship and flirtation in cherished hallway moments were my daily quests. Our classmates predicted we'd end up dating. Rumors would come to me that she liked me. Jade heard the same rumors, but someone liking me that much seemed impossible. No leaps of faith for me to ask her out. But if you don't leap, you'll drown. Jade's voice drowned my hope when she told me someone asked her to the homecoming dance freshman year. It took until senior year prom for our romance to meet a climax. What a night we had. Jade's voice was scratchy and deep, a baritone for a woman. She was mocked for it in high school, but it also had a do-gooder level of innocence. Even as a grown man, sweating in his suit in his car without air conditioning in the LA sun and sitting in 5 o'clock traffic, Jade's voice had me floating away, smiling and dreaming of better days. My world had a breeze. For once I enjoyed traffic because it allowed me to enjoy my old friend. I'll change everyone's names to respect her. This was the voice message she left seeking the comedian's advice. So, I've been doing bookkeeping for a local psychic here. It's just me and the psychic. We're the only employees. She sat me down the other day and told me business hasn't been great, but pet psychics have been really big lately. So she's thinking of bringing one on, which is just people who do readings on pets. I said, okay, that sounds cool. Then she offered me that position. I do not possess psychic ability. She basically told me she wants me to lie to these people and tell them that I can communicate with their dead animals. But I would be paid double what I earned, and obviously less work. So right now I'm doubting everything she's ever told me. The professional funny men burst into laughter. Wait, one said. Let's call him Davy. You were working for a psychic and you thought this was real? The two laughed at this for a while. Usually the laugh of the main host, something between a great uncle's gaffe and a wheezy supervillain, gets me to laugh. But Jade's predicament made me feel bad for her. The comedians cooked Jade to a crisp, with jokes that normally don't bother me. But again, this was about Jade. With 1 minute left, they got to the actual advice portion. You have the opportunity to learn the truth, Davy said, and coughed away a laugh. Like, it seems like being honest is something that matters to you. So you thought you were helping people. Maybe dig into that. You could do bookkeeping for something that's truthful. Yes, you've been lied to, and it does suck, but the fact that you care about lying to people is unique and says a lot about your character. You don't want to go down this path of lying to yourself. Nah, the other comedian said. Let's call him Danny. What do you mean, nah? Forget all that. Just lie to yourself, Danny said. Danny, don't be evil, but lie to yourself. Only accept money from Nepo babies and rich idiots. The funny men laughed, but Davy forced himself to become serious. I mean, yeah, Davy said. Look, we're lying to ourselves right now. It's not going to be a bunch of Nepo babies and rich people. It's going to be a bunch of poor people who always fall for scams. Look, you care about truth. That's rare. Go and seek truth. Well, those are your options. Lie to yourself and lie to people and make great money. Or be honest and be a broke loser, Danny said. And the call moved on. The episode was a month old. Jade had heard it by now. My phone was in my hand before I knew it, searching through her LinkedIn to find out what she chose. A horn blared at me because I had to go a couple of inches forward. Buddy, we're stuck here. I'm not moving for the delusion of getting to our destination sooner. Huh, I guess he was lying to himself as well. Anyway, nothing on LinkedIn about any job. Next I checked Facebook. The guy blared his horn again. This time I ignored it because her Facebook showed where she worked. Madame Z's readings. With the guy behind me going ballistic, I made my appointment. The drive made me realize how much I missed Jade. Although I didn't have a pet alive or dead that I wanted to talk to, I lied on the application form. Didn't want to is maybe a stretch. Afraid to is more like it. I had one pet, and it died in 24 hours, so I never had the heart to get another. It was a frog I found, and stuffed in this cheap plastic container with air holes at the top. It probably felt like prison for it. How unfair was that? You're living your nice little frog life, then some kid enslaves you. Anyway, I named it well. Starfire from Teen Titans, my first crush. As a kid, I lived with my grandmother, my best friend, the sweetest woman, but she dropped out of middle school as a child, so she didn't know that not all frogs could breathe underwater 24/7. So, trying to help make Starfire comfortable, she accidentally drowned it by filling its water to the brim overnight. Starfire died. Devastated, I vowed to never have a pet again. Thinking about that still made me sad. I never told anyone that story, and I didn't think telling Madame Z was the best time to share. So I made up a short story about a dog named Zippy. I'd keep my story with Starfire to myself and my long-deceased grandmother. Madame Z's readings sagged between an adult video store, didn't know they still had those, and an adult arcade, a place notorious for the poor and addicted to gamble away their money. Both places seemed to take more care in their appearance than Madame Z. I imagined the type of person who would go to all three in one day. Walking in, I faced the entrepreneur herself. She stood behind a foldable table with a cash register on it. Behind her hung a poster board menu of various marijuana edibles, so I guess they doubled as a dispensary. "Mr. Adam, nice to meet you," the psychic said and shook my hand. "Have you seen the movie Holes? If so, you've heard the accent Madame Z was faking. Fake Romanian accent and stereotypical clothes. A baggy, colorful dress bouncing with every step, hoop earrings swinging with each dramatic gesture, and a head wrap close to slipping off at all times. You as well," I said. "Come, let us begin." With no sign of Jade, I had to make a move. "Hey, sorry if this is awkward, but and I don't want to change anyone's schedule. I can come another day, but could I see the other girl?" "What other girl?" "Oh, woman or they, if they're going by that. I don't know." "Mr. Adam, I'm the only psychic that works here." "Oh, but I thought..." "Maybe you are seeing into my future, Mr. Adam. Maybe you have the sight. We are hiring more psychics if you're interested." "Jesus, lady, you never stop recruiting, huh?" "No," I said. Sorry, I just thought..." Madame Z's thin, cold hand grasped my face and pulled me close. She tapped her long acrylic nails on my face. "What pretty eyes. Surely they see something missing." "No, that's all the sight is. Seeing gaps in the world that others can't." "What do you see missing, Mr. Adam?" "Just personal space," I said with squished chipmunk cheeks. Madame Z pulled away. "No, Mr. Adam, I'm the only psychic that ever has or ever will work here." She led me to a room only a couple of steps wide, with black walls and blacked-out curtains, and a circular table covered in black cloth. "Now let's talk about your pet, Zippy." "What a name." A husky puppy scurried from under the table and through the other door, so quickly I only saw its tail. "Oh, is that your pet?" "No, I own her. Just a puppy. Some clients prefer to have one in attendance, but I sense you won't be needing her. Right, Mr. Adam?" Yeah, sure, I guess not." Madame Z made some fake conversation with Zippy, and everyone got what they wanted, I guess. I got to see that Jade didn't take the job. Madame Z got paid, and I figured Jade, wherever she was, got what she wanted as well. On my way out the front door, the same puppy scratched at the door like it wanted to leave. It barked incessantly, making a scene. It scratched the door and pushed it, making the bells on the door sing. It was blocking my exit, and I didn't want the dog to escape, so I got on one knee and called for it. Or, hey girl, "Come here, girl," I said, and the dog turned to me. Once it saw me, it dropped its mouth in surprised silence, something I had never seen a dog, much less a husky, do. We stared at each other, eerily. The husky had a brown patch on the side of its face, almost identical to Jade's. My face crunched. I couldn't speak. Sound, words, I couldn't make them. How do you say what you're thinking when I'm thinking this and sound sane? My heart hammered, then slowed, then trickled. The chime of the door stopped. The gentle hum of the husky's breathing was the only noise. But why did a dog look like Jade? Why did this happen? What is this? What? I said to the dog as if it could answer. Wait. Silent, frozen, we watched one another. A single tear plopped down the dog's face. "Jade, come," Mr. Z commanded the dog, and with a pitiful whimper, the husky dragged itself to her. "What?" I stuttered out. "What's her name? You said Jade. You should be able to leave now, Adam." Madame Z, who does your books?" Madame Z did not answer me. The beast looked back at me. Mouth dropped, tongue hanging and swinging like a noose on a chill Sunday morning. But in that sweet, deep voice that could be Jade's, the husky spoke. "Starfire said she does not forgive you." The words chilled me to my core. There was no way on earth she should know about that. I pushed my way out of the door and ran for at least 3 blocks, until I was comfortable enough to stop and call an Uber. I haven't gone back there since. I won't go back there. The comedians were wrong about there only being 2 options: lying to yourself or finding out the truth. Jade did try to lie to herself, but unfortunately she found a much stranger truth. Truth mankind was never supposed to know. I like to lie to myself as well, because I'm never going back there. You've reached the end. But the shadows haven't left you. If this story unsettled you, prove you survived. Like this video, subscribe to Spectral Shadows, and leave a comment with the part that haunted you most. The darkness is always waiting, and so are we. Until next time, don't turn off the lights.